read it right. 8 million bucks. And I had zero, and I was going broke in the process. I'm going to share a little bit more about that with you. So if you and I have not met in this virtual universe of mine, I'm Carol Sankar. I'm the founder of the Confidence Factor for Women in Leadership. I've done a lot of TED Talks, talk shows, Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, this, that, the other. All of those are great achievements. But today I'm going to tell you more about where this first started. So confidence is my main claim to fame. I deal with it every single day. I've written about it, researched about it. I have contributed to major publications in regards to confidence for women. But today I'm going to tell you how I struggled with my own confidence. So many moons ago, I was an ambitious grad student in New York City. And I come from an immigrant family. I've been taught, hey, take what you can get in the door, be seen and not heard. Don't ask for money. That's going to be a sign of greed. And so I took this into perspective, and every job I went to, I was the most educated and least paid employee in the entire firm. So my last stint in corporate America, I was working with a medical malpractice law firm. And at that time, I was debating how I was going to really be able to get through grad school. If I was going to grad school, I had a lot that I was trying to, contemplate in my own mind. So I took this job in a medical malpractice law firm that specifically litigated mass torts. And basically what a mass tort is, let me just give you some layman's terms. Have you ever watched television? And if you have, how many times have you ever thought that maybe you have that disease that they're talking about on television at that moment during that commercial? So it's like, have your fingernails ever fell off? Well, if you've ever used a drug named fingernail such and such, maybe you might have a lawsuit. Call 555-5555. So I was one of those people who I dealt with you after you call 555-5555. It is what it is. And so when I was working in this intake department, what this basically used to entail was hours worth of going through people's records and phone calls and trying to figure out if they really did have the disease that was on the television at that particular time. So we had this case that was legitimate, finally. Like, you go through about 55 calls in a minute to find that one. And it was highly legitimate. And so we went through the entire litigation process, and I worked with one of the partners who was litigating this particular case. And he told me that if I worked with him specifically in an administrative capacity to do all of the prep work, so that was all the documentation, the depositions, the subpoenas, if I did all the memorandums, I was going to get a cut out of the check that was going to come to this particular client, of which in those days it was about a third of whatever the settlement would be. So I was like, perfect. So I was at home when I heard the award for that particular client. It was $8 million. It was announced. I was like, boom, I worked on that with this particular lawyer. They had a press conference. They talked about it. It was one of the biggest settlements in Nassau County at the time. I was like, oh, and I was a part of that. So I'm going to get ready now to go walk up to the law firm tomorrow morning and go get my cut. Yay! It's an old Trinidadian philosophy, says never see, come see. So I went to work the next day, and I was like, man, John, we won, John. And he looked at me as though he forgot who I was after I've spent like 5 months working on this case with him. And he says, yeah, good to hear. They won $8 million. Out of the third that they put in the bank, John got about, I think it was, I'm not even like really sure. I think it was between $400,000 and $500,000 that he collected as a fee, like a big kickback. And out of that, I got nothing. Zero, zilch, nada, not a cent. At this time, I'm partially broke. And when I say partially, I wasn't 100%. I was still a student. I still had high ambitions. But at this moment, I need money for my books. I need money to pay my car note. I'm living in my mother's home, and I'm in my 20s, and I'm kind of trying to figure out, why is this not working? You see, because I had been conditioned to be fearful, to be happy with just getting in the door, to be happy with just accepting societal norm, and to be happy to just get a job. Just be happy about what you're getting. And at that time, I was barely making $40,000 a year. This is New York City in the 1990s. So I'm not really making any real money. $40,000, especially at that time, was barely getting you above water. I mean, I'm eating ramen noodles like it was a real meal at this point. And I can't figure out how I can close the gap between what I know I'm worth and what I'm accepting at this point. And I was so upset about the fact that this case had been adjudicated, decided, and there was a cut, and I should have gotten a part of it. But here's the thing, this was a time when I didn't know my value. I didn't know what to ask for. I wasn't clear about how to ask. I just assumed that people had integrity and they were going to do the right thing. Well, Lord and behold, it didn't happen. And I had to learn how to advocate for myself. And so ever since that day, I remember going to work for a few more weeks, but knowing that I was going to quit. And not because of what happened with this particular scenario, but because I entered into this relationship the wrong way. And I will never get them to see me as valuable because I entered into this relationship the wrong way. So what I'm going to tell you is a very specific secret about confidence. I'm going to tell you this and never forget that I said this first. How you start the relationship is how it will always be. So I started the relationship on the lowest end. I started the relationship not knowing my value, being at I think I was probably making $32,000 at the time, not being able to ask for my worth. And anytime I would say, I deserve a raise, and they would say, for what? And I really didn't have a reason for wanting or deserving a raise because I simply didn't offer enough value up front. What I did was I looked desperate when I took the job. I was so happy when the woman called me back. I was like, yes, okay, $10 an hour? Yes, I'll take it, because I was so desperate. I never negotiated. The first thing I want to tell you is not only do you have to start the relationship the right way, but you also have to start it on your terms. I think we as women, we are given this lack of permission to start relationships in a fiduciary capacity on our terms. We think about what other people are going to say and how other people are going to feel. And I had to get out of that element. And when I left corporate America at that particular time, it was because I had to do like a refix and a remix of the things that I had been taught all of my life. I had to decompress my mind out of this just getting by, be happy to have a job kind of thing. I had to decompress from that and gain the confidence to go into the next professional engagement with my own level of confidence, knowing that I offered value in the market, asking for it, and not settling. So it took me about another year to get another job. In between that time, I was still in grad school. And the next job that I was offered, when they told me the salary, it was lower than the one I had had before. And I had the confidence to say no. And I remember the woman on the phone says, well, why? I was like, because I can't eat off of $32,000 a year. I believe that based on my experience, I offer a lot more than that. Perhaps you need to revisit my curriculum vitae. And she was like, okay. So she hangs up the phone. I believe she spoke to a manager or two. She calls me back from another law firm. She says to me, we want to offer you more money, but we just can't at this time. But I love the fact that you were not willing to accept anything less. And then about 3 days later, after full and fair consideration, I got everything I'd asked for, including days off, including no overtime. I got a lot of things in this particular compensation package. The thing is, when you don't have confidence, what you tend to do is you settle for what other people give you. You also don't demand anything of yourself because you're just happy to get in the door. And then you don't fight for yourself along the way. Because as you continue to grow professionally, you're going to learn more skills. You're going to learn new skills. And all of those skills have a different added value. And if you keep sitting there with new skills and still at the same value, what you will do is you will circumvent your right to negotiate further. I believe it is your right to be as confident as you need to be, but you have to be supported in that. And confidence is an applied science. It's not something we're born with. You have to apply it every single day. You have to have this reaffirmation with your mind. I am worth it. I am worthy. I am going to manifest this. I am going to ask for what I'm worth. I'm not going to accept anything less than what I deserve. And you're going to have to keep replaying this because Negative Nancy, She's always around. She's either on one or the other shoulder, and she loves to play down your gifts at the moment you're about to do big things. So I'm here to remind you that if you are stuck financially or in your career or in your business and you're not seeing the kind of growth that you think you should see at this particular point, especially if you've been doing it maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years and nothing has grown as a result of it, you've just gotten a cost of living increase, but not significantly enough for you to be able to say, I'm earning what I'm worth. Today is the day to decompress the mind. It is simply confidence that is holding you back from asking for what you deserve. And let me also leave you with this. If you consistently stay in rooms that celebrate you and don't challenge you, you will always settle for what people are willing to give you. And so when I had to decompress from corporate America for a moment before re-entering, I had to stop going in rooms where people were like, I heard about your stuff and I heard about what you did for this. Oh my gosh, that was wonderful. We're so honored to have you here, because that feeds your ego and it does nothing for your bottom line. So today is the day I want you to start reprogramming your mind, having these great manifesting thoughts within yourself and saying, I deserve it. I'm worth it. I'm worth more. I'm not accepting less than I'm worth. And every time you say that, when you're offered something less than your worth, you will know and gain the confidence to say no, and you'll know that this is not for you. Trust your instinct a little bit more, because the more you start saying no and you flex that no muscle a little bit more, you'll start to feel like, man, I'm invincible, because I'm going to turn down good to attract great. And ever since then, my life has changed. I've made more money than I've ever made before. I've made more friends than I've ever made before. I have gotten into influential rooms like I never thought I could before. And all because I had to manifest the power of my own thoughts and saying, I can't put up with this any longer. I simply deserve more. But all of this starts with not just saying it, but you have to believe it, but you have to have the confidence to tell other people what you believe. And if you do that daily, this is a daily practice, because it's, like I said, Negative Nancy's with you every day. She's always on the television. She's always on your phone. She's always around you. She always got that negative friend that's hanging out with you. If you're not careful long enough, you're going to fall back for your fear and victim mindset. And I'm going to tell you, victim and fear mindsets don't get you anywhere. So if you want to get paid and you want to be honored for what you're worth, change the way you think. All right? Because take my $8 million story. I gained nothing from it. And you can earn something from what you're doing. I'll see you soon.